Danielle Brian. I'm the Executive Director of the Project on Government Oversight. Most people think of the rigged system as centering around politics, but the corruption that happens between elections also really directly affects our daily lives. And in this case, the stakes are not just about money changing hands, but some of the cases I'll talk to you about mean that corruption is really a case of life and death. Let me give you an example of the opiate epidemic. That has been fueled for decades because of legalized corruption created by the revolving door between the government and the drug companies. Let me tell you how that's happened. The Drug Enforcement Agency, let's see if this works, had some really smart people. This is an agency, the Drug Enforcement Agency was created to make sure that narcotics didn't leave through the legitimate supply chain and fall into the underworld of drug abuse. But they had some experts who figured out how to identify where were those places that were creating millions of pills that were going to these little tiny towns that only had hundreds of people. So they figured that out, and that should have been like a real blow at the opiate epidemic, right? Nope. What happened is the drug companies figured out they could hire these people, and they started to do it by the dozens. And those people taught the drug companies how not to get caught. Everything about that is legal. But nothing about it. Everything about it is legal, and it's also completely corrupt. That's not the only way that the drug industry has had an undue influence on our government. If you go over to the FDA, we have another case. At the FDA, they had some scientists who had decided, they gathered to decide that there was a new narcotic that was about to go on the market, and they voted against it. There are already too many narcotics or opioids on the market. But the agency overruled them. Now, why would they do that? The FDA has become one of these captured agencies by the industry it's intended to regulate. And this is an agency that's intended to protect us, the public. Let me explain how this happens. Most federal agencies get their budgets through congressional appropriations of taxpayer dollars. But for the FDA, there is a law, you will not believe this, there is a law that requires that FDA officials have to sit down with drug company representatives to negotiate money coming from the companies to pay for 3/4 of the FDA's budget. Think about that. And not only is it a case of them having to negotiate for their budget, they are actually negotiating the terms about which they are allowed to spend their money to evaluate the drugs and the medical equipment that is being made by the very companies that are sitting at the table at the negotiation. That is codified industry control of a federal agency that is designed to be protecting our public health. I can't imagine a more corrupting scenario. But that is not the only way that the FDA has been corrupted through undue influence of the drug industry. Many of you may have heard of a birth control pill called Yaz. Some of you may have actually had it prescribed to you. That's a case where the science advisors at the FDA had to vote whether to keep it on the market, and the vote passed by 4 people. Now, they decided to keep it on the market even though they already knew that, women who were on Yaz were 10 times more likely to die from a blood clot than women who were taking other birth control pills. POGO decided to investigate, my organization, the Project on Government Oversight, decided to investigate that science committee. And we found that there were 4 people on that committee that had financial conflicts of interest. Now, those conflicts were not made public, and they weren't even disclosed to the other people who were on the committee making the decision. Again, nothing about that is illegal, but everything about it is corrupt. This is a phenomenon that we're seeing really across the government. People leaving the Pentagon, going to defense contractors, is facilitating the militarization of our police and endless wars. The endless stream of people leaving Capitol Hill, elected officials and their staff to become lobbyists, is ensuring that the laws that they are passing are weakening rather than strengthening our protections. And we really don't know the extent of the problem because in the vast majority of cases, the revolving door isn't even being captured. So what am I asking you to do? I am asking you to care. I am asking you to care about legalized corruption. I'm asking you to talk about legalized corruption on social media, with your families, with your friends, anywhere you can. I want you to demand that people who are running for office are committing to stopping this rigged system. Now, we know we can fix the problem. There have been some cases where we've already had some successes. The FDA is now required to disclose these financial conflicts. And the Pentagon's even required to keep track of people going through the revolving door. But those are really just baby steps, and transparency isn't enough. You and your friends need to demand that those reforms go farther and go across the government. POGO, the Project on Government Oversight, is going to continue to demand that Congress move on these reforms, but they're not going to do that unless you, their constituents, elevate the issue of legalized corruption to the national stage. Thank you.